Who's that? Commander Claw. Who's bad? Commander Claw. Thank you for clicking on this video. I am your host, Commander Claw. I do EDH deck building, and I wanted to make a budget deck for Clive Ifrit's Dominant, and I was inspired after watching a YouTube video on Ifrit versus Bahamut, the final boss battle, and I'm excited to bring you a deck tech that is inspired by Ifrit Risen, and I think all of you who know the game very well, better than me, will get a really good kick out the flavor that I added to the deck, the mechanics that I added to the deck, and hopefully your feedback is just something that can help build the deck and expand the deck. I think it's a nice starter boundary on the budget. Overall, Clive is going to be an expensive deck. Uh, I was shocked myself at seeing the prices of the cards, but I don't want to blabber on too much. The point of the deck is Clive will be a Voltron commander. Y'all will be surprised at the cards, what I got for you. Let's get started with this Clive Ifrit's Dominant deck tech for only $65. And remember, the deck list is in the description, so check it out on Moxfield. So I learned Joshua is the Phoenix Dominant, and he combined with Ifrit, right? So he became Ifrit Risen. So I learned Joshua is the Phoenix Dominant, and he combined with Ifrit, right? So he became Ifrit Risen. So I learned Joshua, unfortunately for this deck tech, Joshua is Boros colors, so he will not work. But I did find another card that is Joshua. Unfortunately for this deck tech, Joshua is Boros colors, so he will not work. But I did find another card that is Joshua. Unfortunately for this deck, what do you know? They made Joshua Rossfield as Rock, son of Rogbah. I don't know how to pronounce that. Don't butcher me. He's only for 0 mana, 0/1 body, legendary creature, kobold warrior, first strike, menace, trample, and the partner ability. We won't be using the partner ability, but Joshua Rossfield is our secret commander in this deck. I know you like that. Go ahead and hit that like or subscribe button, because you know that's kind of fire. I got some more hot shit for you. Let's get started. So we got to make Joshua a Phoenix, and the Phoenix combined with Ifrit to become Ifrit Risen. So look, detect this Phoenix for 2 in a red, 2/2 body, enchantment creature Phoenix that has flying and haste. So you can cast it as a creature. Awesome. Or you can bestow it as an enchantment aura, where you tap a red, collect evidence 6, so you got to exile cards with total mana value 6 or greater from your graveyard. That is going to be easy to do because you are loading up your graveyard anyway when you discard cards from your hand when you cast. Clive. And this card is even better because you may cast Detect this Phoenix from your graveyard using his bestow ability. So also you could discard this when you discard cards from your hand and use it later on to put the 2/2 flying and haste onto Clive. Remember, we're making him a Voltron commander, so we're trying to make him evasive and deal damage. And he's even better when he's a 9/9 demon, right? So making him an 11/11 flying haste demon, that's pretty powerful. Swinging for commander damage, give him double strike, that's game over for an opponent. So, you gotta know, I'm not done with the phoenixes, these flying firebirds. They're great because they'll reanimate themselves. And the reason why the reason why I added these phoenixes to the deck, because, hey, when you discard them, they usually go to the graveyard, and they have some kind of ability where if you do something, they come back to the battlefield. So, also, I know you guys see in other deck texts where they recommend Warstorm Surge or Terror of the Peaks. This is a great, consistent way to get creatures into the battlefield just by off of other triggers versus just relying to cast them from your hand. So, for example, let me talk about Flame Wake Phoenix over here on the left-hand side. For 1 and 2 red, it's a Phoenix 2/2 body. It has flying haste. This creature attacks each combat if able. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may pay 1 red mana. If you do return this creature from the graveyard to the battlefield, that's nothing. Clive is a 5/5 body. So at the beginning of combat, if Clive is on the battlefield, You have Flame Wake in the graveyard. Just tap a red mana, it comes back. It's just a 2/2 flying haste Phoenix. And you get to have an attacker, which is really good. But it also gets better because in the early game, if you have enough mana, uh, to commit to in the early game, this is 2 red mana. That's 2 to the devotion added for Clive, and it's a 2/2 haste. So early game, you just get to swing 2 damage at somebody. You got a flyer, you got a haster, and 2 devotion. So by the time you actually cast Clive later on, hey, that's at least 4 red mana to devotion. Now, let me talk about my favorite one on the far right hand side Skyfire Phoenix. 2/2 red, 3/3 body, creature Phoenix, flying haste. When you cast your commander, return Skyfire Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. Awesome. So, first of all, let's talk about this. Skyfire Phoenix is something you want to discard right away, either using one of your powerful wheel spells, rummage effects where you got to discard a card to draw a card, right? Perfect. So by the time you cast Clive, bam, you get Skyfire Phoenix included with him. Included. And late game, if you have to cast Clive again after command attacks and you have a Warstorm Surge on the battlefield, that's an additional 3 damage when Skyfire Phoenix enters. Now, there are a bunch of cards that you want to load your graveyard with in the early game, like Dragon Breath for 1 and a red. Enchanted creature has haste. It has fire breathing, where you tap a red, enchanted creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. You're only limited to the amount of red mana that you have to give your creature this power boost. But Dragon Breath also says when a creature with converted mana cost 6 or greater enters the battlefield, you may return Dragon Breath from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to that creature. Yeah. Let me know in the comment section below if uh Ifrit Demon, Ifrit Demon, Ifrit enters the battlefield after he's transformed. Does Dragon Breath attach to him automatically if Dragon Breath is in your graveyard? Put that in the comment section below. Another card you want to discard early is Escape Velocity. For 1 red, enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has haste. Escape cost 1 and a red. Exile 2 other cards from your graveyard. Cool. In this deck tech, I am focusing on haste enablers for Clive, because when you cast him, he's got to hit the ground running and slap face. He's not playing no games with nobody. And red allows you to have low costing haste enablers. Now, another graveyard fuel is Coastline Marauders. We're going to have some creatures in here that can do damage and also trigger a Warstorm Surge. Yes, I did put that at the end of the video as a must-have card for this deck. It made the budget. But Coastline Marauders over here on the right for 2 and a red, 0/3 body, human pirate, trample. It says whenever Coastline Marauder attacks, it gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each land defending players control. So if defending player has 7 lands, this Coastline Marauder becomes a 7/3. Wow. Now, it has the Encore ability where you tap 4 and 2 red. Exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copying that's attacking that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. So, first of all, it's 6 mana. It's a little heavy. But however, if you have Ifrit on the battlefield and he triggers the Brimstone ability, that's 4 red mana that you can commit to Ghostline Marauders to swing, whatever the amount of lands the opponent has to make its power to each opponent, plus a 9/9 demon, which is your commander. That's a lot of damage coming at somebody quickly. They need to make hasty decisions. And also, those tokens entering will trigger Warstorm Surge or your Terror of Peaks if you add them to your if you add Terror of Peaks to your deck. He did not make this budget list. He's probably $65 himself. I got some more graveyard fuel for you. Let me talk about Drownyard Temple. It's a land. It says tap it. Add a colorless mana to your mana pool. Otherwise, tap 3 mana, return Drownyard Temple from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. This is another easy discard card, either through your own wheel effects or rummage effects. So literally, it's in your graveyard, tap 3 mana at any time. It comes to the battlefield tapped. Nasty. And it's also in the Tarkir Dragonstorm set. I actually put the, I think this is Innistrad or one of those sets from that time. But it's also in Tarkir Dragonstorm, so you can find it. Okay, on the left-hand side, I found Hell's Thunder. It's only a 35-cent card, but it just tickled my fancy here. First of all, you get 2 red for the 2 devotion, 1 and 2 red to cast it. It's a 4/4 body, elemental flying haste. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice Hell's Thunder. Unearth for 4 and a red. Return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile at the beginning of your next end step, or if it would be leave the battlefield, unearth only as a sorcery. So, first of all, a 4/4 flying haste, turn 3, turn 4. Your opponent's not going to like that, right? Okay. And it just comes back from your graveyard. However, if you have enough mana, or you decide to use the Brimstone ability and use 4 mana to cast Hell's Thunder, and you got 2 devotion added to your amount of mana, you know, when Clive transforms back over to Clive himself, and you may wheel yourself again equal to your devotion. Hopefully that made sense. But y'all know what I'm saying by now if you've been looking at Clive. Remember, we're transforming and untransforming. This card is a no-brainer. This is a staple for all red decks. I'm not going to talk about it too much. It is called Anger for 3 and a red, 2/2 body, incarnation creature. It has haste. And as long as this card is in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste. Easy as that. And guess what? You're going to discard this card using Rummage or discard it from your hand. And you want Clive to have haste. So, this is one of my favorite cards if you get it in your opening hand. For 1 mana, Felden's Cane. It's an artifact. Tap it. Remove Felden Canes from the game. Shuffle your graveyard into your library. You want to use this to stop those haters trying to remove your graveyard. Your graveyard is your fuel. Hence the mini title that I had earlier, Graveyard Fuel. Anybody that is going against a mono red deck knows that you're going to be loading your graveyard for Clive because you have a bunch of powerful effects in the graveyard that pretty much make this Voltron commander do nasty things. And yes, I'll get to the equipments later on. Like, y'all know the equipments by now. There's no big deal. But Felden's Cane, you got to save your graveyard. Early turn plays for 1 mana, then just tap it to prevent the haters. So I want to talk about one of my other favorite cards is Elena Keswick Trapper on the right-hand side here. For 4 and a red, 4/3 body, legendary human scout, she has first strike. She says tap, add an amount of red mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that enters the battlefield this turn. So, if you know what I'm thinking, every time we transform Clive into Ifrit and Ifrit into Clive, if she's on the battlefield, we're getting that much mana equal to their power. So Clive is a 5/5, that's 5 red mana. Ifrit is a 9/9, that is 9 mana. So, ideally, you would like to have Elena on the battlefield the turn before you cast Clive. So, when you cast Clive, you get 5 red mana. Okay. Then, if he has haste, you could tap that 5 mana and an additional red mana and transform him into Ifrit. Oh, Ifrit has entered the battlefield. Now, yes, if you have a way to untap Elena, you could tap him and add 9 mana. Okay. But let's not say that's the case. Anyway, let's go back to the scenario where Ifrit is the 9/9 demon and chapter 3 has occurred and he transforms back into Clive, right? That's 5 mana right there. But you also have the option to wait. Like when you transform Clive into Ifrit and he enters the battlefield, you could decide to tap 9 to add 9 red mana from Ifrit. You got options here. You got options. A powerful way to mana ramp. Really love this combo right here. All right, next up, Call of the Hammer for 2 and 2 red. Planeswalker called for 3 loyalty abilities. We don't care about the first one. We care about the second one. The -2 loyalty ability. Add red mana to your mana pool for each mountain you control. Awesome, awesome, awesome. A great way to mana ramp. Its -5 ability. You get an emblem with mountains you control have tap. This land deals 1 damage to target creature or player. This is going to be really good when you have damage multipliers and you're just tapping mountains and dealing damage to your opponents. Nasty. Yes, and what mono red deck doesn't have damage multipliers? They're in the budget. Now we're going to focus on devotion and early turn plays. I am in this deck tech suggesting adding creatures that are haste enablers like Goblin Motivator because they're low in CMC and they give you at least 1 red mana. And you want to be committed to putting Clive out on the battlefield with haste, right? So anyway, Goblin Motivator, 1/1 body, Goblin Warrior, tap him, target creature gains haste till end of turn. We want Clive to have haste. Next up, we got cards like Mariah Marauder in the deck. They are 2 red mana. So early turn, double devotion, possible turn 6, you cast Clive. That's 4 cards you can draw to your devotion, minimum, if they're still on the battlefield. But look at Mariah Marauder for a 1/1 body Goblin Warrior, has double strike. We're in a Voltron deck, so worst case scenario, shit goes wrong. You can attach equipment to him. Anyways, whenever a goblin or orc you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. Cool, just a powerful effect, but we're really using him for his devotion. So, yes, Fanatic Amagus, y'all seen this card. This is one way to burn your opponents. 3 and 1 red mana, 4/2 body, Minotaur Shaman. When Fanatic Amagus enters the battlefield, it deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. We're in a mono red deck. In this deck tech, there are a bunch of uh, red mana cards with a lot of devotion. That's all I have to say. Straightforward. And in this deck tech, I also added Conjurer's Closet for the opportunity to flicker Fanatic Amagus or even Clive, so you can wheel yourself again at the end of your end step. You got options. You got options. And that's all I'm trying to bring you. Conjurer's Closet for 5 mana. Artifact at the beginning of your end step. You may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. Now, focusing on the early turn plays and having a solid opening 7, that's your opening hand. I got equipments that say, either they auto equip or when a specific warrior enters the battlefield. Remember, Clive is a human noble warrior. And guess what? Joshua is a warrior, the son of Raka Baka Baka Baka, right? Out of these 4 cards, the Obsidian Battle Axe is my favorite on the right hand side. For 3 mana, it says equipped creature gets +2/+1 and has haste. Whenever a warrior creature comes into play, you may attach Obsidian Battle Axe to it, equipped for 3. Cool. So, you put this on turn 3, turn 4 before you cast Clive. When you cast Clive, Clive gets a +2/+1 power boost and haste. He's already equipped. Nasty. Uh, Relic Axe is another warrior synergy equipment. And when you cast it for 2 mana, you get to attach it automatically to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. If it's a warrior, it gets +1. I mean +2/+1. Equipped 2. So, there's gonna be times after you have wield your hand and you got cards you can play. Keep adding to Clive. He's a Voltron commander. Slap it on him. Y'all know Hero's Blade by now for 2 mana equipment. Creature gets +3/+2. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach Hero's Blade to it. Yep, straightforward. Oh, and you wanted me to talk about Two-Handed Battle Axe. Another budget card. Is really good. I would say this is really good for mid game because it's adventure ability, right? Target creature pretty much gains double strike. hmm And so when you do that, when you have that, you're gonna attack with Clive, and maybe you don't have the scenario where you don't have double strike attached to it. Bam! It's the speed double strike. Maybe take out an opponent, one shot him. I don't know. But also when you turn it into the equipment side, it doubles the power of the creature when you attack with the equipped creature. Equipped for 1 in a red. Awesome. Now, these are your go to draw spells because these cards are like powerful rummaging effects where you discard a card and you're drawing at least 2 cards, right? These cards are your go to. Unexpected Windfall, Big Score, Laughing Mad. Um, I would argue that Laughing Mad might be the best one right now. For 2 in a red, it's got Kefka on it. As digital cost to cast a spell, discard a card, draw 2 cards, but it has flashback for 3 in a red. So if you decide to discard it earlier, which you really shouldn't, or if it just happens to be discarded, you can flashback it. Easy as that. And it's an instant speed. Nasty. Unexpected Windfall, Big Score, they're good too, but they make treasure tokens along with discarding cards. Awesome, 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 awesome. Now, these are your budget friendly damage multipliers. I'm sorry, the other ones did not make make the budget. Gratuitous Violence for 2 and 3 red. It's an enchantment. If a creature you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to the permanent or player instead. We want this when Clive goes to attack as our Voltron commander, and even when Fanatic of Magus enters the battlefield, this would trigger him also. This card is also good because it has 3 red devotion. So if you play it a little bit early, right, 3 red devotion, you cast Clive, you do his wheel effect, and his devotion 3 here, then 2 from Clive. That's 5 cards you get to draw. The good thing about Clive is you're refilling your hand in mono red expeditiously. Next up, we got Angros Marauders for 5 and 2 red, 4/4 body human pirate. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to the permanent or player instead. Yeah, this card is really good because it says source. So, it could be a burn spell if you decide to add that to the deck tech. But in this deck tech, I don't have any burn spells in it. So our sources will be either creature damage, Fanatic of Magus with a ETB, or Warstorm Surge, or Seismic Assault. And I feel like Seismic Assault is not talked about enough in majority of the Magic universe. And that's my final card that I have for you. But moving on to the second to last card. So yeah, in this deck tech, I have Warstorm Surge. It is the budget version of Terror of the Peaks. I can't say that is better, but for 5 and a red enchantment, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player. Remember, Clive's a 5/5. When he enters, that's 5 damage. Then when he transforms into the Ifrit, that's 9 damage. In this deck tech, I also have those phoenixes that do self reanimation, so that's 2, 3 damage right there in itself. Also, remember, if you decide to add to this deck tech, there are cards that make clones, right? So you're making clones of creatures that enter the battlefield that would trigger Warstorm Surge. Or even when you have Coastline Marauders and you make those additional tokens because it has, I believe, Encore, those creatures come in and they deal damage with Warstorm Surge. Awesome, awesome, awesome. This is a great way to finish off opponents. So my final last card. Seismic Assault for 3 red mana. Mono red color. This is a great devotion card if you play it early or on time. It's an enchantment. It says discard a land card. Seismic Assault deals 2 damage to any target. Awesome. We will be discarding mountains. So when you are wheeling and you just have lands in the play, and remember, you can only play 1 land per turn anyway, uh, just discard it and deal 2 damage to any target. Now, if you have damage multipliers, and it says if a source would deal damage, oh, Seismic Assault would deal 4 damage. Or maybe you have Fiery Emancipation, because I believe that says if a source you control. That's 3 times. So each land you discard is doubled or tripled. My God, you're able to take out an opponent as long as you have lands in hand. And don't forget that Drown Yard Temple. Really like that card. Really like that card. Really like that. So these 2 cards are not in the deck tech, but I just wanted to put them out there because I saw somebody in my comment section on my previous video for Clive Ifrit. They mentioned Gornog the Red Reaper. It's a 2/3 body for 2 and a red. Minotaur Warrior, legendary creature. He has haste. Cowards can't be blocked by warriors. Whenever one or more warriors you control attack a player, target creature becomes a coward. And attacking warriors you control get +X+0, whereas the number of cowards your opponents control. So pretty much Clive and Joshua, guess what they are? They're warriors. And this Gornog, the Red Reaper, is a warrior. And you just make creatures your opponents control into cowards, and they can't be blocked. Just think that's super cool. Shout out to you, bro. So, thank you for watching this deck tech on Clive Ifrit's Dominant. It's only $65. It's a Voltron Commander, haste enablers, great cards for devotion, recycle your deck in a way, wheel often. I think it's a great budget-friendly way to get started with Clive. I think there's other cards that's going to cost a bit more money to boost its power, boost its effect, and maybe move it from bracket 2 to 3. Hey, let me know in the comment section below if you enjoyed this deck tech on Ifrit and any other card suggestions that you do have. And remember, the price does make a difference.